Welcome back to the podcast, guys. So I'm very happy to present Michelle Smith. She's an up-and-coming pro and DJ in our community. And for this podcast, we really wanted to go deeper into the LGBTQ community. We had some discussions with previous artists about, getting deeper into this topic. And I think there's a lot to go into. And it's pretty relevant in today's just age in general. I really see social dancing being a great opportunity to really welcome all kinds of people with different colors, ethnicities, and preferences, whatever. So we really wanted to highlight that in this podcast. And Will has had some conversations with Michelle, and she's a figure in the space. She's giving classes geared towards that community, and she's really excited to talk about this. So any things that I left out, you want to add, Michelle?
No, you got all of it. Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle. For those of you who don't know me, I've been dancing bachata and salsa for like 3-ish years now, almost. But I have an extensive dance background that we've talked about previously. So I love the way you guys are doing. I've watched most of your videos at this point, and I'm excited to delve into and talk about these topics. So thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Thanks for your patience too.
2 hours.
Listen, we were having a great time. I was just chilling.
Oh my. They won't know though.
They won't know. That's what everything is for.
Yeah, just to kind of preface too, like we're also having a new setup. So if you guys see Jose in his own little screen, it's because
we don't like him.
Exactly. We kicked him out.
We kicked him out, and he's never coming back.
Yeah. No, he's having a baby, so he's in San Diego right now, and he's doing some dad duties.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
Thank you. Yeah, this is the setup for now, guys.
Officially adopting the daddy title.
Yeah.
Me.
Daddy Jose. Damn.
Yeah. Just the title. It's his biological though. Because you said adopting. I don't know if anyone got that joke. Whatever.
You missed the joke.
Did I?
You had to explain my joke, broski.
Sorry. I was mansplaining. Or is that I use that right? I'm just throwing out words. I don't even know what I'm saying. I'm like so stressed from the setup. But no, let's get it rolling.
Let's get it rolling.
Yes, we're here. I'm Will.
I'm Antonio. What's up?
Yeah, Jose is over there, and I was gonna say this setup will be more used, if we do any remote shootings or with artists or guests that are not with us physically. So yeah, just be patient with that and be aware of that, guests.
Anyways.
Yep. Dope. Okay, cool. Let's just get into it.
See, so we were just talking. We did have it on the camera. It was recorded. Michelle was talking a little bit about what she wanted to, what got her into the scene, what she wants to do with the scene, and the reason why. I think you said why you wanted to have your own social. So you said a lot of people are afraid to come on out. There's that struggle of like people imposing even more things onto just people in the LGBT community. We did cut you off a bit, so if you wanted to elaborate on that, and then I got a few more questions to just guide the conversation forward.
For sure, let's go. So I was mentioning that I want to do like a queer focused social, simply for the plain fact that the queer community has been so like ostracized or like cast aside, especially in very heteronormative spaces. So that's why you see queer bars opening up. Like we got Charlie's here in Phoenix, we got Gossip Grill out in San Diego. But the reason I want to do it here is because like the constant feedback that I do get is that, oh, I'm so glad you did this, because they have an interest in the salsa and bachata scene. They really do. But they're terrified to come into it because of the fact, like I was saying earlier, like we have this constant like bombardment of not only in like a very global sense, so a lot of like attacks that doesn't feel very safe to be existing as you should, but also in general, like in a smaller sense, it's like we have people telling us, like I was telling you, like this guy in Orlando like straight up was asking me about my partner at the time, and was just like, oh, well, I'm sure you just haven't had the right dick. I'm sure if you gave me a chance, you'd change your mind, and things like that. Or like it's happened to friends of mine that they identify as like they, them. And, people are referring to them as girl or as woman. And it's just, it's very jarring, and it can be sometimes really triggering, because I've definitely seen people walk out because of something that seems so minimal, but it really is like just not inclusive language, and so they feel almost ostracized just by proxy. And that's where language in itself is changing, where we are becoming more inclusive, instead of saying like, oh well, men and women, could the guys go over here and the girls go over here. And during like classes, you know, we start hearing more and more like, all right, leads go on over here and follows go over here, because men can follow and women can lead. It's not exclusive to how you are built or how you identify. It's very much like a fluid thing, and I'm a strong believer that if you know how to follow, you'll be a stronger lead. If you learn how to lead, you'll be a stronger follow. So it's that's just my own personal thing, but yeah. So the queer community in and of itself is just like terrified to try to come out to these spaces that are just very straight looking. And that the standard is very straight. It's, you know, and especially in a partner dance. And so building a space that's centered towards being just for them, not necessarily excluding the rest of the community. I want the rest of the community to come in. I want them to come in to show that they are like supportive of having these people here. I want them to see how loving our community is here in Phoenix, because it has been. My experience here in Phoenix has been wonderful. I've had a great time. I've never had really any incident. But a lot of people, like, they don't know that. They don't have the courage to know that because they've been through so much. Okay. So my goal is to at least someday have my own social where it is queer focused. It has a queer theme to it, so that way the queer community can come in whatever aspect they may identify as, and can feel accepted. But I want our community to also come in and back that, because I want in general to make our community as dancers bigger and stronger. Because the more dancers we have, it's just more fun, more friends to hang out with, more dances to have, more places to explore, places to grow. It just opens up so many endless possibilities. But if a group of people is terrified to do that, I want to give them that safe space, so that way the rest of the community can come in and be like, hey, we love you, doesn't matter where you're at. This is a space for everyone, and I want them to feel that way. And so that's kind of where my long-term goal is in terms of like where I want to go as just someone in the community to build something up here, but also like as an instructor, I do want to be someone that like comes in and is teaching something that's kind of out of the norm as far as like female leading and welcoming and open to male follows and people that are within any of the gender spectrum, that they feel like they have a place, and it's not just one or the other, you know? It's just like there is dances where you can switch in the middle of the dance. I have those all the time with some of my friends, where I'll be leading and all of a sudden they'll take over, and it's the most fun because we are just the most dynamic pair and duo. But yeah, it's just creating a sense of community and a sense of a safe place to be in that community. And like I said, thankfully Arizona's been relatively, for the most part, a very welcoming community in that regard.
Right. And I know we spoke on this topic before. We briefly mentioned it. Is there anything off the top of your head you think, I guess, like our scene can do to be more accommodating to that, in terms of like anything?
Yeah, I mean, in general, just I think it starts with just being open. And I mean, this happened with me when I was first starting, because I didn't know any lesbians, gay men, or anyone that was really in the dance community when I came in. It was very straight, and I came in short hair, rocking these button downs, and I'm just like, I'm a lesbian, and deal with it. And then which was really fun. And then I started like learning how to lead, and that's when people kind of started taking notice of me, and they're like, oh, that's a female leading. And it was a consistent lead. It wasn't just, oh, two friends are dancing together. It was just like, oh, I'm asking everyone to lead them. And so again, thankfully here in Phoenix, it was very open. People were like, yeah, okay. But I mean, as always, like, especially someone that's new and that's very queer, I like identifying visibly or even not visibly, like asking their pronouns is a huge thing. Like if you meet someone and you're not quite sure, you can be like, oh, hey, not to be rude or anything, but like, how do you identify? And they could be like, oh, I'm she, her, she, they, them, and he, him. It goes all the way around, right? So just being more attentive to people's pronouns, I think, is a huge thing, especially if if they're going to call attention to it, if you make a mistake, I mean, it happens because language is fluid and we're used to a certain way of talking. So like, it's going to happen. But if they
Sure.
make the effort to be like, oh, hey, it's they them actually, or it's this instead,
Right.
making the conscious effort to acknowledge that person and how they ask for it. And it's just
Sure.
it's a sense of respect. It's like if you came up to me and you're like, hey, Kate, like, and I'm like, that's not my name. My name is Michelle, and you're like,
Right.
no, your name is Kate. Like that is a similar equivalent. You're
Right.
misidentifying them in the way that they're presenting to the world.
Sure.
So I think we can be a bit better about that in this community. But again, thankfully, I don't think anything is malicious. It's just a lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
And then something I've noticed a lot of instructors doing as of late is doing the lead and follow example in their classes. I think that should be very like just made more of a standard because, I make the constant joke if I'm leading in a class and they're like, oh, guys go over here and girls go over here. I'm like, I'm a guy today. Like, I'll just make a joke out of it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But for someone that's maybe not as comfortable with that or that has a lot of trauma attached to that,
Sure.
it can be, something that makes them want to shrink away from it instead of
Sure.
embrace it a bit more. So to the instructors in the Valley, be mindful of your language. And to just in general the community, if you see someone that isn't comfortable or that's correcting you in terms of like how you are referencing to them,
Sure.
just be respectful and honor it, even if you don't quite understand it.
Yeah.
It's a respect thing, and if you don't understand it, want to understand more, ask questions. If you don't feel safe asking that person, like I'm always the first to volunteer information because like I went through a whole like few years once I found out that I liked women. I was just like, what is going on? I grew up in the church. I grew up like thinking I'd marry my best guy friend from church. Like
Yeah.
it was just like this very idea, and then all of a sudden my world like blew up. And when I was 19, and I was just like, I'm accidentally in love with my best friend. How do we do this? And so I love people asking me questions because I did a lot of
Sure.
research about it. So it's like if you meet someone and you're not sure what something means,
Sure.
like find someone that you trust to ask, or if you feel like they would be open to it, ask them themselves. And it's just being that curious mind, if you will, an
Right.
open mind. But yeah.
Yeah, I think in terms of the pronouns, to be honest, like I'm not so up to speed on like what terms to use. So usually if that's the case for me, I just always try to remember their name or be like, hey, like do you want to answer or whatever. Like
Yeah.
I do know that is the thing now, and just to show that I am mindful. It's one thing I think you can distinguish from, someone not recognizing the pronouns versus like someone just like blatantly correcting you when you've explained something to them.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
The-
If it's like a repeated offense or you're clearly not giving an effort, that's when it starts becoming an issue,
Yeah.
honestly. But yeah, for the most part, it's
just like lack of knowledge.
it's lack of
or
knowledge.
Yeah.
It is very new, and there's a lot of new language to it because there wasn't language for it before. Not that like being gender nonconforming or being queer is a new thing. Like there is too much history to ignore. Down from the very Native American cultures, like they had a word for people that were non-gender, like gender nonconforming. They were
Sure.
called two-spirit. And so like there's cultures all over the world that recognize like gender identities as being multiple.
Okay.
And there is a ton of historical references of either historical figures or just general people, photos, journals of people that were queer
Okay.
back in the day. So it's not anything new. It's not something
Okay.
that's just barely popping up. It's just finally being accepted. And so people are seeing it more.
Yeah.
It's kind of, it's like people are just seeing more of these people come out of the woodwork.
Right, but
simply
they've always
because
been there.
They've
or
always been
something,
there. Yeah, we've always
That makes
existed.
sense.
And you don't realize the history of the queer people and the history of just where we've been and how we've had to hide and how we've like existed in society until you are queer, and then you're like, wait, so is this like, am I just being turned by the media if you're like fearful of that? It's like, no, like this has been something that's been in history for way longer than we even realize.
I
And
see.
down to the Greeks and Romans. I mean, like
Sure.
there's proven queer tendencies in like ancient cultures. So
Sure.
it's a history that should be honored, but not everyone will know. So an inquisitive mind, a open mind to learn and being willing to be informed
Right.
is key in being an ally in any capacity, whether it's on a racial basis, on a ethnic basis, or on a preference basis. It's just
Right.
having that open-mindedness to just kind of like be able to have those conversations and be open to be educated about them.
Sure. Okay. Cool.
So for
With that, you
for
want to say something?
yeah, I was gonna ask. So for leading, I mean, I wanted to focusing on the dance community, like what got you kind of to get people a little more, get to know you a little bit more. Like what was the thing that really got you to pursue dance? And I'm guessing you said you're teaching for sure, and you're DJing also. So I'm guessing you're really wanting to make this into a career, something that you're putting a lot more time into. So, what really got you started, and then what made you then want to move even deeper into a commitment with it?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been dancing my whole life. I've been dancing since I was like 4. I like saw a musical and saw people dancing. My mom was really into theater, and so I saw these dancers, and I'm like, Mom, I want to do that. And she's like, all right, here's ballet. Good luck. And then I did ballet for 8 years, and then jazz, contemporary, a ton of different styles for another like 4 to 5 years. And then I unfortunately got really, really sick. I had a really heavy autoimmune disease, which nearly hospitalized me, and so I wasn't able to dance for like 6 years. And then right before I was moving out here to Arizona, which again was, we kind of talked about it briefly, but that was a very like impulsive jump on the gun kind of a deal. But before I had a chance to move out here, I was at my best friend's wedding. She was getting married in November, and the person I was going with, he was one of the groomsmen, and he's like, hey, why don't we show up and just knock their socks off on the dance floor? And I'm just like, absolutely, let's go. So he brought me to his class, and at the time he was teaching with he was a student with Tiasha Novak, and so he introduced me to Tiasha, and then she taught us a little bit of a bachata combo that we could bring out at the wedding. We showed up full gear. Like, I'm talking, I was in this gorgeous long gown with like a high neck, and he was in a suit. Like, we were like, we're doing a like costumed prep run. Let's go.
Right.
And so, that was the first taste I got of bachata, and I really enjoyed it. And so the next time I visited Arizona to come see my friends, we did another class with her. And then I got the opportunity to move out here. And so I moved out here, and I immediately called Tiasha, and I was like, hey, I moved out here. Where do we go from here? And so I started doing the classes that she was doing for bachata with Bane at the time. And I just really kind of delved into the community because it was exactly what I'd been longing for in terms of my dance career. Because dancing solo is fun and all, but dancing specifically, like, just dancing specifically, something that's close to my roots because I'm Mexican, like Latin dance, getting in touch with the music, getting in touch with the movement of this, especially sensual bachata. That's where I've found my niche. That's where I'm like most happiest. It was just like it just kind of clicked. It was an aha moment for me, and so I really jumped into it and started going out to socials, and I started doing like a lot of following. But then during the classes, like there was this one time we were short a lead, I think, and I was like, oh, I'll jump in. Why not? Like, I'll learn both sides. There's no rule book, so let's go. And then I did one class leading, and Bane was super just like cheering me on. If you guys remember Bane when he was out here, like he was just like, oh yeah, we love that, let's do it. And he was super encouraging, and I loved it. I loved it so much. I was like, this is such a different brain space from following that I just absolutely adored. And so I just kind of really delved into leading, and I just was very adamant about asking to lead and very persistent to do it. And I just kind of kept learning. I took private lessons. I did any class I could get my hands on that was offered. As far as like leading, I started watching a lot of videos, and I really identified with it, and I felt like that was kind of where my place really thrived, where my style really thrived. And yeah, ever since then, just kind of been leading, and it's been super fun.
Cool. I guess I'll just ask, like, asking follows, mainly most are women. Were there any women that kind of looked at you funny when you asked?
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
I've definitely gotten the look of just like, I've been at socials, especially like festivals and stuff like that.
Okay.
Where there have been socials where I'll go and I'll ask someone to dance, like a complete stranger, because I'm like,
Sure.
oh, my friends are dancing and I want to dance, so let's go.
Right.
So I'll go up to someone either new or someone that I haven't met before, and they'll do a double take. They'll be like, they'll see the hand, and they'll just kind of like,
Oh,
kind of like look at me the double. They'll be like,
right.
you, and I'm just like, yeah. Do you want to dance? And they're like, if they're genuinely confused, they'll be like, I can't lead. And I'm like, I'm
that's
aware. Like, I will lead. Don't worry about it. And sometimes they're very tentative. They're just like, this is so out of the norm. I definitely have a smaller frame than most men. Like, it's a very different feel.
Okay.
But once we really get into the dance, and thankfully I've had good training, and I've been training like nonstop for the last like almost 3 years, and so once we're done with the dance, they're just like, oh, that was really fun, thank you so much, and then we just kind of get to part ways as like either friends, or maybe they'll ask me for another dance later.
Sure.
And but yeah, I definitely have gotten the double glance of like they see the hand, they see me, kind of bounce back and forth a little bit, but in the end, like I'm like, I can do this. You can trust me, because it is a trust.
Sure.
Like, so
All right, okay.
it's been funny. For me, it's hilarious, but like, yeah, it's definitely been like
I don't
an
think
interesting experience.
I'm assuming most interactions are just pretty good, where it's not malicious or anything.
Oh, not at all. No,
Okay.
I haven't really gotten any malicious experiences in the dance community, thank God.
That's good.
But yeah.
Okay, yeah, because
What's been
the
like-
times I've asked people to follow, it's like my guy friends that are, that I know. I wouldn't ask a random guy to lead me. That'd feel kind of weird, but I don't know if the dynamics.
Oh, I've gotten men ask me to lead them before.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a lot actually.
That's cool.
Yeah, I've gotten men ask me to lead them, and it's kind of going back to that thing of like the more you learn how to follow, the better you're gonna lead. The more you learn how to lead, the better you're gonna follow. And it's just because you start recognizing like you as a dancer, what kind of signals or arm movements and stuff like that to do to get them to turn, or to turn this way, or to go into a dip if you are one of those people that dips. Whatever you end up doing, you kind of know how to guide their body to kind of do what you are intending them to do. But if you're a follow, it's a completely different headspace, and you have to read all those signals. And so for me, it's just like, if you know how to send those signals for what you want your follow to do, and as a follow, you know how to recognize those signals, not only is your leading going to be super clear, but your follow is going to be a lot sharper, because now you kind of can pick up on it a lot faster. So
Okay.
it's just, they complement each other beautifully, especially if you're training them both.
Right. Yeah. Why limit yourself anyways?
100%. Yeah.
Me like barely get to leading. I'm gonna follow. But no. Oh, you have any questions? You want to ask something?
Sorry, bro.
No, that's fine.
I'm here, but okay.
He's tired, but
Yeah,
he's
all
here.
right, I'm
He's
back.
here.
I'm back though. No, I actually did have a question on. You were talking about. You said you lived in San Diego, right?
I did.
Did you
yeah.
ever get to go to the queer Afro?
Oh yeah, that
I
festival.
actually,
what
yeah,
is
the
it?
queer Afro Latin dance
Yeah,
festival.
I was just
I
looking
know
up
exactly
right
what you're
now.
talking about. Yeah,
Yeah.
He
I went-
wasn't just like.
Yeah, not
That's
just
the actual thing.
just chilling on a computer.
It's during
Yeah.
Pride Month. It's in
Yeah.
June. It's up
Yeah.
in San Jose. Me and my friends, we literally road tripped from Phoenix this last summer to go do it. But it's really cool. It's definitely more like traditional bachata and like salsa heavy. So if you are a sensual dancer and or sensual queer dancer and want to go, super recommend it. Either way, it's super fun. We have a great time. The instructors are great. The DJs are awesome. Beautiful like hotel and locate in like central San Jose, so you really can go kind of anywhere if you don't want to stay at the hotel the entire time. But just to be aware, that's like super traditional bachata heavy, as well as super like salsa heavy.
Okay.
And but in general, the instructors were phenomenal. I got to see Bex is one of my really good friends. They run Queer Chat Out in LA. I got to meet a few other instructors, or re-meet a few of them. There was a proposal on stage this year, and it was so gay and so cute. We all like screamed our heads off. But yeah, the Queer Afro Latin Dance Festival, super fun. We went this last summer, and their next one's in June. I'm hoping to go again, and permitted with time and stuff like that. But
Right.
it's beautiful because everyone there. There's a sense of coming home almost, where you kind of are surrounded by all these lesbians and queer people and trans people, and they're all beautiful souls with just so much love to give. Something that I've noticed more when, I mean, this comes from a group of people that have gone through a lot of trauma, whether it's in their own coming out and experiences or just in general being a part of the community. So when you are faced with these heavy things that you've been given in life, you have two things you can do with it. You can either put blame on whoever did anything to you and be angry and bitter or whatever, or you can not embrace, but you can acknowledge what happened to you, and you are then going to thus be responsible and choose how you are going to be moving forward. And in that community specifically, it was very much just a lot of love and acceptance and openness, and there were switches in dances happening. Like they were handing out, like the Bex was handing out wristbands that said, I asked me to lead, asked me to follow, asked me to switch. Like there was a whole different vibe to it than any other festival that I've been into. But yeah, and then the pool parties were awesome. We were all like dancing, and because it is a queer Afro Latin, there's a lot of people of color there and a lot of diversity, not only just in it being queer, but also there was a lot of like music that was heavy African influence with a lot of like traditional dances going on at the pool parties, which was so cool to see. And I was like, I want to do it. I don't know what I'm doing though. I can't do that. So I was just like over here with like a video camera recording. But it was a beautiful celebration more than anything of diversity, inclusion, and just general love for everyone. And very well organized by the organizers, very safe. If anyone was like losing control, whether of themselves or drinking or whatever, like they had a staff on hand with food, like with water, like ready to kind of take care of people. If they like eyeballed them in the crowd, they were just very attentive to their attendees. It wasn't a massive festival, but it was big enough to where we had a good time and we met new people every day. And I walked away with so many friends from that festival. It was awesome. So highly recommend it if you want to be in a very like inclusionary open space. Just be aware there's a lot of queer people there, a lot of gays, a lot of lesbians, and it's a great time.
Yeah. But the reason I was asking is just like, is that kind of like what you envision for like Arizona or Phoenix here, or what is more like, just to kind of gauge where exactly more do you want to get out of Phoenix, basically?
Definitely kind of that vibe, that energy of kind of coming home and being welcomed into this like inclusive space. But I don't like feeling like anyone else is excluded. So I don't want to create a queer event where all these queer people come in, but then all my friends that are not identifying in the LGBTQIA community, like, I don't want them to feel like, oh, well, I can't go because I'm straight. Like, no, that's not the point at all.
Right.
It's creating a safe space so we can get these people in, and then we can have the rest of the community kind of come in and give them this big welcome bear hug, and then we can all meld into one community. So yes, I want it to be very queer forward in the sense that it's like it's a commonality to see women asking women to dance, men asking men to dance, men asking women to lead them, kind of like what is kind of just my experience. I want to make that a bit more of a commonality amongst general people, so that way when it happens in other places, like LA is a bad example because LA has a lot of queer people and has a huge queer dance community. Mm-hmm. But if we're looking at the more rural areas or the more like questionable areas right now in like Texas, Florida, especially Miami, like Portland. I mean, I don't know. I'm throwing cities out at this point, but just I want, in a sense, just to create a place where people can just be,
right.
But they can also feel, just welcomed. Like, we have a very well-established dance community here, and I think we can just expand it and lead with love, as always. Like, doesn't matter where you stand on anything in general. We're all people, so it's just like, bring everyone in. Make the table bigger. Like, there is enough room here in Arizona for all of us to go out social dancing where we like, to find the music that we like dancing to, because we all have different preferences. So it's like, I just wanted to be kind of like an open area where people can just come and be their authentic selves, be their best selves, and just enjoy dancing, because after all, like, it's one of the few moments in life where we really get to be present in the moment, you know? Like, we are always rushing to work. We're always rushing during work, meeting deadlines or doing one thing or the other, depending on your job. And then when we're not at work, like, oh, we're running here, we're running there. We have this class, we have that class. If you're a dancer, you know the amount of classes going on. But when you finally get to those events and you get to finally be in these moments, like, for me, I tend to go to Dave & Buster's because it's a very central heavy area. And that's, like I said, that's where I thrive. But as soon as I get to Dave & Buster's and I walk through those doors,
he doesn't like Central.
That's not.
It's all good. And that's what I said. It's a preference thing. It's a preference thing. I like being fluid. Right. I like kind of just like for me, it's more like a water flow dance.
Yeah.
I think that more traditional or like salsa is very much of a more like fire dance. It's spunky. It's fun, and I get it. It's super fun. I just like my flow.
The last Congress we
Oh
were
my
at,
God.
he did so many body rolls and head rolls. I didn't even recognize him, so it's okay.
Oh man, see,
Yeah,
we
I know.
can
Yeah.
A body
listen.
roll
You can swing both ways. It's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. I accept you for
Thank
who
you. I
are.
appreciate
There you
that.
go.
There we go.
But yeah, no, it's as soon as I walk into these doors at Dave & Buster's and I like grab someone for the dance with the especially the ambiance that they've built there with the overhanging lights and the rooftop, like it's the few times during my week where I can just exist and be so utterly present in the moment without a phone dinging off, without this going off, without someone calling you up or texting you or having to respond to people or responding to emails. Like it's a very beautiful moment of just pure quiet and just being present, flowing with the music, feeling the music, connecting with the person that you're dancing with. It's a very unique experience, and it's a very unique level of intimacy that humans don't really have anymore with each other. And it's beautiful, and I want more people to just kind of experience that.
Right. I wanted to add that, like, especially for dance, it's one of the few moments where, hopefully, at least for me personally, just not being judged by like my role in society or just you're just literally vibing with the person, like you said, just add on
100%.
to, or you're not looking at their creed or their status or their preference or whatever the case may be. You're just there for the music and the dance and the culture.
Yeah.
So yeah, with that being said, no, I just want to add the reason Jose brought up one of the artists we interviewed, Eder, and he talked about how there's so much untapped potential. So his partner Milton is, I'm assuming, like, correct me if I'm wrong, he's not straight or something, right? But they're same gender dance couples, and like Eder would lead him, but he talks about how amazing Milton is, and like because of I guess society and like old habits, the LGBTQ community is relatively new. He talks about how there's so much untapped potential, like amazing future dancers that may or may not start because of whatever restrictions. So
Yeah.
it's just the bigger pool of dancers, just numbers wise, it just makes it better for the scene.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, so we should be as welcoming as possible. Even like for me to play, not devil's advocate, but for the most jaded person out there, like, you want the scene to grow and get better in whatever metric possible. Like, why would you not include people, even if you might not see things their way, people who might be different from you, just because there's more people, it's just bound to be better.
No, absolutely.
Right?
And I think that already, like, that kind of semblance of we're just people dancing.
Sure.
Despite differences already exists. Like, there's definitely people from all walks of life, whether they're religious or coming from a different country or whatever. Fill in the blank for diversity. Our dance community has it.
Yeah.
And it is kind of like an unspoken rule of like, I'm going to respect you as a person despite anything that you may believe outside of my own beliefs, because not everyone's going to think the same. And that's the kind of tragic thing, is that, this narrative of being pushed of like trans people, especially right now, getting so viciously attacked by one of our own, like, not to bring up his name, but DJ Soltrix just absolutely attacking anyone of otherness in the community, and him being such a big name in both the bachata music as well as in the bachata community, and him being so adamantly vocal against people that are just different from him. It's not just people that are trans or queer or whatever. He's going after people that are of different body shape. Like, he's going to any semblance of anything outside of what he considers as normal as villainous. And it's very dangerous when you get to that point of power, So it's
how would you in your opinion, would you like navigate, I know this is one area, like one example, but just for people in the community who are a part of the LGBTQ community, what do you suggest would be a great way to navigate like such a prejudice or just acts of like discrimination?
It depends on who is doing it, kind of a deal. I for me, the way that I've kind of like dealt with any kind of discrimination, which again, thankfully I haven't experienced too much, but for the most part, I've just kind of, I assume the best of people, and I feel like that's what we should do is assume the best of people and just assume that they don't know. Um, Now, if it's a repeated offense and it's just kind of like ignored, then you can either choose either just not interact with the person and just kind of keep your space if they're making you feel uncomfortable, or either keep your space if like I was saying, either keep your space if they make you feel uncomfortable, or if they are someone that you actually value in your life and want to keep them around, you can bring it to the table as a conversation. Be like, hey, listen, this is something that you know is making me uncomfortable, and I would like to have a conversation about it. And if by the end of that conversation, you stay friends, great. If you decide to not interact in each other's lives, again, the dance community is big enough for everyone. But for the most part, just when faced with hate, you can't lash back out with hate. It's like fighting violence with violence. It just makes more violence. Fire with fire makes more fire. For me, it's always lead with love and lead with the best assumption of that person, because chances are they probably don't know, because unless it's directly impacting you, you wouldn't think twice about it. So my best recommendation when facing any kind of discrimination in general, especially in this dance community, like assume the best. Assume that they aren't doing anything malicious, because 9 out of 10 times I can almost guarantee that it's not.
And when it comes to this situation, DJ Soltrix, how do you think the community should handle that? I know having a name like that, a lot of people look up to you and navigate that. You know what I mean?
It's concerning for sure. For me, it was really concerning, kind of seeing people that I knew being vocally supportive of what he was saying, because it directly affects my existence as well as that of my friends, and it's just sad because there's a lot of misinformation, a lot of fear mongering being spread around, and it's all fear based and lack of knowledge. But I think with the Soltrix situation, people have been trying to give him like an olive branch to kind of say like, hey, like, you said this really bad stuff, but we're trying to like teach you about this, and we're trying to give you a chance to like fix your shit.
Yeah.
And he's repeatedly and repeatedly and repeatedly like not budged, and in fact has gotten more hard-headed and worse about his stances. And rhetoric, unfortunately, like that can lead and incite to absolutely horrendous crimes that could escalate later. The average life expectancy of a trans person, for example, is like 33 years old. Because of the absolute either suicide rate of non-acceptance, or they just straight up get taken to a back alley and killed. Like it's a tragic reality that
Sure.
the average life expectancy is 33. Like that's just terrible. And
Right.
it's the rhetoric that like Soltrix started pushing that incites that fear and misinformation about a community that he knows nothing about. And I have this discussion a lot with my family as well, because there are people in my family that think very differently from me. And it's not in any way hateful or anything like that. It's just they don't know. And so once they talk to me and they're like, seriously? I'm like, yeah. People threatened, like, not this last summer, but the summer before. There was this guy here in Arizona saying, if I see any of you Fs coming to Target, I'll shoot you up right then and there. Like, the police had to actually apprehend him because his threats were that, like, real.
Bad, yeah.
And, like, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
That you just walk into a Target, you're like, oh, this rainbow's really pretty, and then all of a sudden you get capped, Like, it's a terrifying concept.
Right.
And so, again, like, facing someone like Soltrix, who has so much influence in the community, saying this kind of rhetoric and spreading just a lot of misinformation, the best thing you can do is to kind of just ignore him. Ignore him till he stops screaming so loud, because what he wants is attention. Truthfully speaking, if he was really actually trying to make any difference or change in people's lives, he'd do something different. But I think he just wants attention. So I personally would say just ignore him.
Sure.
Don't invite him to festivals unless you want like a very uncomfortable situation. And yeah, it's unfortunate that one of our top people that so many admired is creating such a discourse and creating such a divide, because there doesn't need to be. The community in and of itself, we love each other despite anything, and it just sucks that someone tried to like wedge that divide. So best thing to do is ignore him, honestly. Just stop inviting him and stuff. I personally, when I DJ, I don't play any of his music, and if I'm at an event with other DJs, I usually request like, can we just make sure that DJs and Soltrix really isn't played. I know I was talking with Ruben about this recently, and he mentioned, he's like, yeah, no, he just got too much, and which sucks because it's good music. He's a very talented human being.
Right,
I'm not going to say that he's not, but he's just a shitty ass human. Like there's kind of just no going around that. He's attacking anyone who's just different from him, and it's sad. Honestly, I don't know where it's coming from, but it's coming from a place of hurt, honestly.
I think it's something deeper, because it's one thing to be ignorant or unaware of something and being corrected. I'm sure that's, like you said, I'm sure the comments are lovely. I don't dabble in that, but I would imagine people at least gave him a
looking
chance.
at them right now.
Yeah, but like we don't want to, like, especially technical wise, we don't want Jose to disappear after me messing around with the whatever. But anyway, so I'm sure people gave him a chance, and it's like, if he's not willing to maybe learn, I don't know what his message or what he was trying to bring up, but regardless, of how he feels or what the context is, it's where your intention matters, I think. You know what I mean?
100%, especially at that level.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's truths everywhere, and again, like, I'm not aware of it, but from what I've been told from friends or whatever, I think your intention shows way more than like the information you're bringing out.
100%. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And that's the biggest thing why I think we need queer dancers more than ever, is because we have people like that are scaring people away from our community, just like absolutely just don't want to associate with it anymore. And it sucks. It's a beautiful community to be part of, and we should be working to grow it and be inclusive, because we genuinely, down to each person that I've interacted with, we are open and welcoming to almost anyone who walks through our door. Yeah. Unless you're like an absolute piece of shit, in that case,
you gotta really try, though.
You gotta really try, yeah.
We all have our issues.
You have to actively
really
be just open about it.
Yeah, the scene is so forgiving, especially just for like, women who have been like, assaulted or whatever. It's just like they're still there. Yeah. And like, I've even talked to like, I don't know, like my friends who really run into these guys, and they're like, I feel bad if he left, so I'll just leave him be. Like, but it's just like the fact that he's
so forgiving.
The fact that people are actually like, I guess I don't want to use this word, but like, I guess try to cancel him or whatever. It sounds like he's digging his own grave, anyways. But the fact that it's getting that bad, like how, like in my mind, I'm thinking how bad do you have to push that envelope to get,
man.
Right.
He's pushing.
It's almost like intentional. Like
it's so intentional, and it's so intentional.
Yeah, and it probably is coming from trauma or some insecurity or something, right?
Some sense of hurt is coming in, or just a call to attention, honestly.
Or that,
because like if you say some crazy stuff, people aren't gonna fucking like notice.
True.
But no, it's just I was really mad one day. I just left like a comment, just being like, oh, I see the size of your pea-sized brain inside your cavernous skull or something like that. Like, just straight up being like, you're just ignorant. Because, like, even I saw, like, Eddie, like, being like, hey, like, trying to educate this man.
Yeah.
And it's just like, all these big-name people in the bachata community being like, hey, like, you're just really misinformed. Like, trying to give him, like, an out. The
benefit of the doubt, basically.
Benefit of the doubt. And that's what and I mean, like, people make mistakes.
Sure.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
And if you learn from them and change, then great.
Yeah.
Slate clean. Let's start anew. Like, try again. And that's an amazing factor that we have in our community, because cancel culture can be very toxic in the sense that they're like, nope, you said this one thing and now you're gone forever.
Yeah.
And like, no, people grow, people change, people are misinformed. Let them learn. And if they get called out on something and then they're like, oh, I actually was terrible. It's like going on like Reddit and being like, am I the asshole? Like it's kind of like, oh, I was terrible. The general population consensus agree I should change. Yeah. In that case, I don't think someone should be canceled. I mean, they've learned.
Sure.
But
I'm assuming he's an older mean, I'm not trying to bring him up so much, but I'm sure he's like an older gentleman.
He's a
Like,
grandpa. No, he's not that much older.
that
He's
old.
he's in like his 40s. He's not
Yeah.
even that.
well, like not
Dang.
excusing him or anything,
No.
but like, yeah, it's just I know people close to our age. I'm trying to associate with you guys, but I'm in my 30s now.
I
But
know, you're trying
yeah,
to be Gen Z
like,
over here.
it's different than
I'm
if, like,
I'm the Gen Zer here. I'm 97. I was like right first year
Really?
Gen
I'm
Z.
93.
Yeah.
They changed
So-
that though, didn't they? Because apparently
Was it 97 or 97?
No. Apparently, there's like, sorry to get off topic, but like,
Oh, they added
apparently
a
they're,
new
like,
generation
Yeah, they're
in
adding.
between.
They
The
officially
millennials.
added like there's millennials or whatever.
That's me.
Yeah.
Sweet.
I prefer to
I'm
be
a
that
young
than
millennial.
Gen Z. To be honest,
Alright.
I'm being honest.
No, but like
Wait,
it's
like
like
Gen
if I
X?
talk to my grandma about like the LGBTQ community, she'll be like pretty perplexed, and it's not like I don't think my grandma's out to hurt anyone. It's just like
Yeah.
she's so
No.
like
Yeah.
she's older. It's like so far removed that like I mean she'll accept my friends who are different,
Yeah.
and like there's no issue versus the way you're describing DJ Soltrix. It just sounds like whether it's hurt or whatever, there's a lot of hate, and I just have to question like where it's coming from.
Hurt people.
Yeah,
That's
that's not
the
like a
truth,
cop.
right?
Like that's not that doesn't excuse anything either. But
Yeah.
let's move on from him.
Yeah.
Because like I like some of his songs, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
he
yeah,
doesn't
I'm
need
not
any
gonna
more
request
attention.
that.
He's
I'm like,
already-
shit, dude. That's why I never hear him. But yeah, but sorry.
No.
Is there
I got
anything
you.
wanted to expand on that, or do you want to move on?
No, we can move on. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll move on from there. I think a good thing you mentioned, Michelle, was the fact that a lot of the people in the community were really trying to educate him and really talk to him about that. So let's get into that more about like how you see how receptive the dance community is, how understanding it is. Like, do you think that the Latin community specifically, kind of like two questions, but first one would be like, do you think it's a welcoming place? And then the second question would be, how have you seen it, evolve throughout the years to get to the place where it's at right now? Like, have you noticed a trend or a change through the times?
Yeah, for the Latin dance community, it's super welcoming. I feel like I keep praising it because it is like it was one of the first places where coming back into dance after so long and coming back as like a queer woman, like it was just an absolute amount of love and acceptance with no questions asked. It was phenomenal. Like I like even pulling out like my very traditional like dad joke gay card, like people would think they would love it, and then they would embrace like just me and who I was as a person, and I love that. I love that aspect in the sense that there was just so much acceptance all the time. And I think in terms of like since I've started dancing, at least in these last 3 years, like there has been a trend of more people feeling like there's more people in the community that, like, to me at least, have told me they're like, oh hey, like, oh I'm bi or I'm this, or like people that are non-binary like coming out to the dance community and being like, I want to learn how to lead. And I think that the one thing that we're missing as a community is just making like making it more accessible for people to learn both. Like I feel like if at least this happens in our class on Mondays, like my Monday night social in Scottsdale, like we have this thing where it's like, if there's too many leads or too many follows, like we'll just throw someone in the mix to kind of
sure
learn and and take that opportunity for them to learn how to lead away. So I think we should be more like, as maybe in classes, be slightly better about, if, and I mean, this is just from coming from my experience, because I was all like constantly being like, oh, we're short of follow, do you mind? Or like something like that. Being conscientious of what people want to learn, and especially people that are doing things out of the norm. Like, don't force them back into a box if they're trying to step out, and don't make them feel weird about it. Like, just I've had to, like, there was this one time in class, like we were rotating, and the guy that was next to me just turns and I guess just realized me, and then asked me to dance, and I was just like, I'm actually leading. And then he's just like, he kind of looked at me weird, and he's like, okay. And I was just like, I can do that too, fun fact. You know, so just being supportive, like being like, oh my God, you're learning how to lead. That's so awesome. Oh my God, you're learning how to follow. That's so cool, especially for men, because I think there's this thing where it's just like women learning how to lead. Oh, that's so cool. Like I've never had any issues, but I think that there's a lot more of a stigma of a man trying to learn how to follow.
Yeah.
And it, like you said, it's hard to ask that. And I think that that's like the one area that we can really, really work on as a community.
Right.
Because if you're seeing two women dance, like not to go into everything, but it's hot. It looks really nice. There's this kind of semblance of like, oh yeah, that's acceptable.
Yeah.
And also just in my very lesbian brain, I'm just like,
You like
I
that.
vibe with it, yeah.
Yeah.
But in general, like it's not trying to be in any creepy way, but
Sure.
it's aesthetically very pleasing to watch.
Yeah.
Like it's very enticing to watch, and it's fun to do, and like it's a great experience. But like with men leading men, I feel like it goes back to so many societal issues. But men leading men, there's this idea of masculinity and like.
Yeah.
Following is supposed to be very feminine. You don't have to follow in a feminine way. I don't. Like, I add certain flurries because it's what I've been trained to do.
Sure.
But when I'm following in my own way, it's not feminine following. It is very much, it's a lot stronger of a follow. I tend to play it a lot sharper instead of just kind of more flowy with the arm. I tend to be like here or, just adding more movements that aren't necessarily quote unquote feminine. But I'm still being led, like I'm still following. Because the idea between following and leading is one person is the designer of the dance, and that's the lead. The follow is the creator of the dance. So you expand on what you've been given based on what you've been led to do. And that shouldn't be just narrowly like referenced in terms of a very feminine way. Because it cannot be a very feminine dance if you know how to play with it. And that's what social dancing is so beautiful about. It's that it's run by... It's influenced and run by culture and the way that the dance, like bachata in and of itself, like we had traditional bachata, then we had sensual, now we have urban, like, and it's gonna keep changing and developing new forms and styles as people play with it, and that's what it's meant to be. It's meant to be playful and meant to be like we were saying earlier, like a moment to share with someone else.
Right.
And so I think we should really allow our gentlemen to kind of be silly and just playful with it, because that's all it is. We're just having fun.
Right.
And if you're dying laughing on the dance floor, guess what? You're having a great time.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. And kudos to any of the gentlemen that have come up to me and asked me to lead them, because like,
really?
yeah, I don't normally go and ask gentlemen to lead them,
Sure.
because I know that there's this kind of stigma, and I don't
Yeah.
want them to make them feel like they got their masculinity taken away by a
Yeah.
lesbian. Like that's not my goal at all.
Yeah.
But when they've come up to me and they're like, can you lead me? And I get to lead them in the stands, and I can tell how it changes their leading in the future.
Really?
Because they suddenly understand, oh, this is what this means. This is what they're looking for.
Right.
And so it makes them a stronger dancer, but it's also just fun. You don't have to be one thing all the time. And it's a different headspace. Leading is very much like you're already calculating where you want to go next. Like you are orchestrating the pathway. You're making sure that they're on the right foot. You're making sure that you aren't throwing them across this dance floor, like and on top of just leading the person that you're leading and maneuvering where you want the dance floor to go, you're also being aware of like 5 majillion other people around you and make sure you're not hitting them. It's a very mentally active side of the dance. Versus the follow side of the dance, you aren't being aware of everyone else around you. You are being aware of your lead and what they are doing. So it's a very different, like, turn off the brain and let the body kind of listen. Because one, if you're trying to do the side step into a shadow position or something along those lines, there is very specific cues you need to be listening for. It's active listening with your body. And then it's a skill that is very difficult in and of itself. Like, I don't want everyone to think, oh, leads have it hard and this and the other. They do. As a lead myself, I can vouch, we have it hard. But following is also a challenge because you are having to almost read the mind of the lead that you are dancing with and do that with your body. And it is a different world entirely. And so I think that a lot of our leads would benefit by jumping into the follows role. And it's going to grow us as dancers. It's going to grow us as a community. And in general, let's just have fun. Like, I don't like the stigma that you know, men can't be led and women can't lead. Like, let's switch the roles up a little bit. I mean, we're in a world where that gender role is becoming more and more nullified because more people are working and everyone is playing a part. If you have a kid, like, it should be father and mother both equally raising it. It's not just mom at home and then dad's at work, you know, kind of like we're not in the 1950s anymore. Like,
Right, yeah.
and our dances should start reflecting the culture that we're in because it is a cultural dance.
Right.
So that's where I'm going with that. I'm sorry, that was a little bit of a long-winded answer.
No,
but
that was a really good answer. I was gonna say, even if you adhere to like traditionally, like, you know, I guess like gender specific dancing, like even with that mindset, it really makes sense to follow if you're a lead, and like you said, lead if you follow, because they're completely different worlds in terms of it's shaped. Like, you could have the exact same dance, but if you're a lead, you'll be thinking, feeling different things versus if you follow. Because he smiled when you were like talking about, like, shout out to the guys who like ask follows to, or ask you to lead, and I've asked him many times to lead, and especially at the end of the night, it was a social where there's no follows. I'll just hold my hand out. I'm like, do you want to lead me? And like we'll switch halfway through, and like I realized, wow, like, yes, following is much more relaxing in terms of you don't really have to choreograph and think of the next 3 moves, but I realized how tuned out I am when Antonio preps me for turns and I just don't react at all, and he's just like, we're just doing the basic the entire time. So it's definitely there are different skills that I know, even if I don't use it, even if I don't follow often, I think it's just skills that you can use, tools that you can have under your tool belt, you know. At least to 100%, know what it's like to be a follow, you know.
And I think we should get rid of, like, going back to kind of the gendered thing, like, we should get rid of just the idea of it being such an automatic role, because women are just seen as softer, but there's a lot of really strong women who are soft, but they are unbelievably strong and have gone through so much stuff. And art in its most basic essence, whether it's painting, dancing, singing, theater, I do all of them. So I've studied most of these, but art in its purest form, and this is why I love being a performer in general, it's a very raw and real depiction of who you are. And your dancing style is going to reflect that. You know, if you've gone through a lot of hardships and you consider yourself a very strong person, you are going to dance in a lot more of a sharp, strong way. If you consider yourself someone that's very much a kind of easygoing, go with the flow kind of person, you'll see that in their dancing. And it's you know, we need to kind of be more just open to kind of just, yes, going back in the conversation, but yes, we need to be more allowing of people to kind of not always be, especially men, like always having to fill this masculine role. The stereotypical role.
Image. Or just be more receptive, really, and just like...
Just open that door, because in the end of it, it's just self-expression.
And it doesn't define who you are just because you follow. It doesn't mean, oh shit, like... I'm a follow for life now or something.
Right. And I was having this conversation with a friend of mine actually today of how, like, as dancers, we also have other hobbies. Like, we also do other things. I do sword play and I ride horses. Like, I have a whole other side of me that people don't know about. Sure. Unless you see me on Halloween walking around with my sword, you don't know I do sword fighting. Right. Like, it's... but it's like other things that I like to do that are also a part of me that I'm also expressing that just people don't see. We are such dynamic and complex human beings that to be expected to fit into one box and one style and one thing, it's just, it doesn't make sense. And that translates to everything. To expect everyone to be straight, to expect everyone to be gay, to expect everyone to be bi. Like that translates to the human experience in general. To expect anything from anyone to fit into a box of your own perception,
Right.
absolutely logical, irrational, and
I think a lot of it plays into like, especially if you haven't explored different facets of your own personality or your self discovery, like you said, discovering or trying new hobbies, or sometimes, especially for men, just dancing in general. I remember talking about dance, starting to go social dance to, like, I guess my gym friends. There were more masculine friends who haven't really discovered any creative side of them. Like, they're very, I can tell, it's not that they come from a place of hate, but it's just maybe like the male conditioning of like, oh, like, we're like men, we're like meatheads, we're just,
Yeah.
we just, like, work and like, don't go to the doctor and like, don't talk about our feelings. And, it's just, I could see that like, it's a lot of society plays into it. And I when I speak to men personally, especially in social dancing, I've never met so many men in one community that is so willing to open up about, let's say, their traumas or their insecurities, because most men don't do that, dude. That's why. Oh, I was gonna say, like, when we mentioned, we'll edit this out, Jose, but like, especially with YouTube, our overlords, we can't say suicide, so we'll just bleep it out. So,
Oh, sorry.
like, no, it's all good. I mentioned it, like you mentioned
Yeah.
it, so we're doing that just, I guess, for future monetization.
Yeah,
but we
fair.
can say it now, like we can edit it out. But yeah, I think that's why the suicide rate is alarmingly high for men. Just because,
Unaliving, right?
yeah, it's just,
Yeah.
yeah, unaliving, right? It's just a lot of it is that, like, men are so pressured to act a certain way, and they're afraid themselves to open up and be
They
vulnerable.
can't ask for help. They're not allowed to be soft.
Yeah,
And that's why dance is so wonderful, is because like
you're not really.
you kind of have to be at certain points.
Yeah, and then you're not really judged for it, because it's like, that's the beauty of dance, right? Like, your follow is very receptive of you, like, depending on your energy or whatever. So
Right.
that's what kind of blew my mind about dancing the first time. That it's just like, however I act, like, my follow will feed off of that energy or notice it, and like,
Right.
they'll just try to match it or just like, stay where they're at. But I don't think in any other facet of even society really that men have that kind of safe space to really explore that,
Yeah.
other than speaking about
100%.
it. But that's like
Yeah,
kind of
that's
loaded,
like, yeah.
depending
it's-
on who you talk to. So.
100%. No, I agree with you 100%. And on top of that, like, we have a lot of like gender queer people, trans people that I've met at the Afro Latin Dance Festival and things like that, which they want to find their place here in this community. They want to. They want to find their place. It's just a matter of opening the door for them and being
Sure.
like, give them a welcome mat and be like, we see you as you, and come in. This is for everyone,
Yeah.
So yeah.
I was gonna say, like, tying back to like men and masculinity. I guess I'm talking about straight men. Maybe it's different for gay men. I don't know. But
It's just as impactful whether you're trans,
Yeah.
trans or not. Like,
right. What I'm saying is, like, I guess, like, me as a straight male, like, just following and like, and though you're not judging me or whatever, that's like cool, because like, that's why I would never ask like another male lead, that especially if I don't know, to ever lead me. Like, I would never, even now, because
it's an image thing.
Yeah,
it's
not even an image thing. Like, I honestly don't care how people perceive me, but like, just from I guess a safety aspect, where hearing the horror stories about people in the LGBTQ community, like, I feel like if I ask another lead to actually lead me, I feel like it's almost like inviting like
a hate
violence.
crime.
Like, yeah, I'm just like, man, are we gonna get in a fight over this? Like, I don't know. Like,
Yo,
and that's
like, the thing. That's exactly the point. Like, you as a straight man, very like comfortable in your own sexuality.
And I could fight, by the way. I just want to throw that out there, but I just don't want to.
we can fight.
Yeah.
No, but that's exactly my
Right,
point. Is that like, you even being a straight man who has a place in this community, who had like, people know who you are, you're scared to go ask someone to like leave you. And that's exactly the kind of same fear that the queer people are just in general are experiencing. Like, we don't know.
Right.
We have no idea how you're gonna be receptive.
Yeah,
to
I
us.
had a taste for it, because like, obviously, again, I'm straight, but like, yeah, it's just, I can only imagine what it's like if I was like gay, or if I was a follow, and I want, let's just say, like, I wanted to a male lead to lead me, like, that'd be
Yeah.
a weird situation.
No, and shout out
yeah.
to those gentlemen. Like there's a dancer that I met at the Afro Latin Festival who is phenomenal follow. Like I led this human, and oh my god, one of the best follows I've ever danced with, and he knew what he was doing. I'm gonna assume it was he him pronouns. I didn't know.
Sure.
But he is wonderful, and the bravery must take as someone who is dressed with makeup and in a very flamboyant-esque
Sure.
outfit, but very just queer. You can see him and
Yeah.
you're like, gay.
Right.
But, you know, them having the courage to kind of go out and ask people to lead them
All right.
was super inspiring because I can kind of get away with it, but some people in their true selves can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's that fear of we're not sure, like we want to be our true selves, but we're not sure if we're gonna get hate crime for it or not. Like,
Right.
especially in a state that has had such a rocky history with the queer community, you know.
Sure.
But yeah,
Yeah, and like just I guess to close off my point, like sometimes I just get tired of leading at the like it's a lot of
Yeah.
mental
Yeah.
like a lot of mental horsepower just like choreograph a whole ass dance and it's
for
kind of
like
nice
3 minutes for bachata or 6 minutes for a salsa.
or
Mad
8 or
jokes.
10 or
7
whatever.
minutes.
So it's kind of nice just following because I can just be receptive and then just like really, again, it's just a different set of skills that I'm using. So, but I would never ask. I would rather ask a female follow to try and lead me than ask like a male lead to actually lead me. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I don't know how like take from that what you will, but that's my experience.
Yeah. I think it's cool to when you follow, like the amount of like different styles that different people have. Like I didn't realize like how I always thought like most people just dance like when you dance with like any lead, it's like they're all gonna be pretty similar, but it's really very like the difference in between like one lead that even like will dance in the same school, right? But one lead versus the other lead just dance completely different, and it's just I don't know. I think it's kind of confusing when like what was I dancing with yesterday? I was dancing with Jose. Oh crap!
Not that one.
No, not that one.
He's stuck in San Diego.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I
he
just
was
want to
like,
mention that you're here because we haven't looked at you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We see you.
No, but I was dancing with Jose, and I was like, damn, this guy does a lot of spins. And I was like,
Oh, Ta Jose.
yeah, tall
Okay.
Jose. Yeah, but I was just
man.
like, I was like,
Yeah, he has
that.
that energy. So
Yeah, and I was like, all right, cool. Like, I like this, but
damn,
but I mean,
I'm dizzy.
yeah, it's like now I get it. It's like people like when like followers are like, I was like, oh, like I'm dizzy. And I was like, and like for me, it's like, sure, I guess. I don't know. Like I'm still trying to
Well,
get.
I
the
just
pattern.
gotta do
Why
this.
would you be dizzy?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I think that's cool. Like just being able to see people's different style and like what you were mentioning, like everybody has their own way of dancing, and I don't know. I think it's cool just to see that, and also just I kind of get props to like follows because it's like not every prep is gonna be the same, and then you're just like expected to know that they're gonna do it, and then all of a sudden you're doing a turn, and then you're telling the guy like, bro, like you clearly missed the prep, like literally 3 counts into the freaking into the spin.
A disclaimer for all leads: please prep your follows, my dudes.
Instead of forcing the move.
Oh God,
Yeah.
so many times.
Anyways, yeah, just I think it's cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Following is just pretty cool, and I think who did I? Oh, when we went to Denver, that I got to follow Rennie.
No. I
yeah, we
never
talked
saw
about
that.
Oh, Remy?
We never
Rennie
recorded that. We were
Gongora.
recording
Oh,
that.
I love him. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
and it
super
was-
talented. He's
Yeah,
a cool
and
dude.
it's cool. Like even dancing with like artists, I think is also like adds another level. Like fuck, dude. Like following is even harder dancing with them because like they're trying to do all these crazy shit. And I'm just like,
And you're not noticing
I'm just
anything.
like, I just want to have a simple dance.
Yeah, seriously, I get it. No, I was gonna say, I've been told when I first started that, like, I had asked follows for feedback a lot, and they talk about like, oh, I got like my shoulder dislocated or my finger snapped or whatever, and
Oh God.
it wasn't until like, okay, like I've always been mindful of that, so I've been like a softer lead, and I guess my feedback is like to be more intentional. But then it wasn't until I followed and I realized, wow, like this guy's putting me in a hammerlock. It feels like we're in an MMA fight right now. Like, Yeah,
Oh, no,
it's
yeah,
just
there's-
now, yeah, just going through it and actually experiencing it myself, it adds another layer of like appreciation for follows.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, why limit yourself? At least do it once just to see what it feels like. So
Yeah.
Literally.
Oh,
I'm
absolutely.
sure it'll change leads who typically just lead in some way.
Especially for the lead that like is really aggressive.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Have-
Have an
have
aggressive
Throw
lead
like
lead
if
you.
if you get flagged with like a red card of aggressive lead, just be like, go into the follows.
I'll be like,
You've been
Jose, lead
banned.
this guy right now. Give him your turns.
Not me, not this Jose. Other Jose.
No, he's a very smooth and gentle lead. Other Jose.
Damn.
But no, that's a really good. Oh, I was gonna say, how are you on time, like?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Because
But we're in
we don't wanna keep you waiting.
5:05.
I know we started
maybe,
late,
like,
so like
15 more
we don't want you
minutes.
to miss any appointments or anything. Like, don't feel the need to. Stay.
I'm right now flexible, so I got still a little bit more time if you guys want
Okay.
to keep going.
Sure.
Right. I know,
Jose, do you
I-
have anything you'd like to add, or Michelle? Like,
I want to get two more questions in.
Sure.
Let's do it.
Because I also do have to head out soon. Yeah, let's go into. I know you got some teaching experience. So you, as like being in the position you're in, you know, what's the thing you're really trying to do as a teacher? Because, you know, I think a lot of teachers that I've seen, they're really just in it for, like, I don't know if it's the money, the status, or whatever. And I feel like that's kind of the thing with a lot of people that I see. But with you, I can tell, like, you're on a mission. So, you know, what is your mission, and, you know, what are you trying to really do with your teaching?
Yeah, I mean, with my teaching itself, like I kind of mentioned it earlier, I want to create a good community of good dancers. Like, I'm very fortunate in the training that I have had, and I've gotten really good feedback on my personal style and my way of leading, and I do want to not, like I said, just not only create a community, an extension to our community that already exists, but I also want to make sure that that extension comes in well prepared, well equipped, and making sure that they know kind of what they're getting into, you know? Like, I don't want to give a class being like, oh, we're just having so much fun. Because, like, it should be fun, absolutely. But there are, like, things you have to be aware of. You can't just do a neck roll without learning what a neck roll is, because then you're going to accidentally hurt someone. You can't just force someone into a dip by, like, just throwing them back, because then you're going to fall on top of them. Like, I want them to be excited to come into this dance community. I want them to be engaged. I want them to dance a lot. I want them to try new things. But I also want them to have the tools to be able to do that. So my end goal in terms of teaching is to be able, like I was saying, just to expand the community, but also make sure that, like, our dancers are trained well. Like, I constantly make this joke. Like, I'm a huge fan of Magda and Valeria because, like, they're a phenomenal duo of dancers, and their training and their classes, from what I have seen, are just so detailed and so well done. And so I'm like, I kind of want to emulate Magda from that, from the dancers, or, well, you know guys who I'm talking about. But I want to emulate Magda and kind of be that kind of a lead and leader in the community. Be that kind of teacher that encourages her students, that people feel like they're heard, seen, and they're actually growing from. But I kind of want to be here on this side of the planet, you know? Like, end goal would be, I mean, dream come true would be to be, honestly, like, traveling, collaborating with other instructors, doing festivals, maybe do some film. Like, it's just like that long-term goal is, I'm just such a creative. I want to do a little bit of everything. But for my more local scene, I just want to grow us and to make a good collective group of dancers to kind of bring into this community. And that's where I'm at. I mean, and if people get to know me, like, I'm not here for, like, fame or fortune or anything. Like, I have a genuine passion for art, and I have a genuine passion for dance and theater and everything that it has for it. But I also just love people. And I just love people. I love talking to people. I love interacting with people. I always lead with my best foot forward and with a lot of love. And I just try to be as much as I can to just include everyone, because I know what it's like to be excluded. I know what it's like to be not welcome in a space anymore, or being left out, and I don't want anyone to feel like that in this community, because it's so beautiful and it's so wonderful, and I feel genuinely lucky to have found it, and I want to make sure that people do get to find us. I always say, like, Lion dance and social dancing is the largest underground community there is. Like,
it's like so niche, but like
yeah,
so massive at the same
like
time.
as soon as you find it, it is a whole world. But
Yeah.
like when you're not in it, you have no idea.
Yeah,
it
you don't
exists.
know it exists.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, let's bring them into the underground and bring them over to the dark side. You know.
For real. Wait, Zook or because I hear that a lot about Zook.
What, the dark side?
Yeah. Is that different?
No, I was just talking about Latin dance in general. They can pick whatever they want afterwards,
okay.
but just bring them into the
Yeah, and then you can go to the darker side if you want and go into Zook. But no, I just like no, that was beautifully explained, and I just want to give the viewers some preface that yeah, you're one of the first persons I spoke to that was from that community, and yeah, you're so kind and genuine that for me it was new seeing that off the bat, especially with a stranger, and obviously we didn't become strangers like we became friends like immediately after.
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
I was like, dude, your neck tattoo, I'm picking you.
Like,
yeah.
that's cool. Like, thank you for that. But yeah, even when I first met you, that was before I took any classes. We all hung out. I got invited to be graced in our
It was a crazy night.
sacred group chat and crazy party life at 2 gay clubs where unspeakable things happen consensually. But yeah, it was so crazy. I'll tell anyone out there that trust me. If
join
you
our
have
join our unmade Patreon for those stories.
Yeah, those stories are not child friendly, but no. If you for anyone who is on the fence or uncomfortable about this topic, or people from this community, trust me, go party with them. And I've never partied harder in my life. Like, it's crazy. It's so welcoming and so inviting, and everyone's just extremely nice to you. And I've never been to clubs where I felt 100% safe. Like, yeah, I don't mind blacking out here. Like, I think I'll be okay. Like,
yeah,
and it's for me, that was the first time for everything. So
and that's like a really good parallel, like gay clubs, feeling like that first sense of safety of like, oh, I'm sure that if I were to get too much here, I would be okay.
Right.
You go to club downtown, you go to any kind of other place, you
have to be on your guard.
No one's touching you. No one's touching my drink from the bartender's hands to mine. Like, and that's a sad thing. That's a sad thing that we have to experience. And like I remember we went out to Mill with me and my friends, and literally like within the first 30 minutes, like one of our people got roofied. Like it was bad, yeah. And that's on Mill. That's like college venue. And I'm like, that's terrifying, because imagine how many people would be exposed to that. Right. And thankfully we were all surrounded this person, and we took her home. Right. But then you have these gay bars where you go and you know that the staff is there to take care of you, and you're not. No one's going to go and take advantage of you if you're drunk. People are respectful there. There's a sense of responsibility and respectfulness that even from the bar staff to the security staff to the go-go dancers, they're having fun, but there is a sense of responsibility for their customers and for their people. And it's open to everyone. Like, you don't have to be gay to go there, but it is very specifically geared towards a gay audience. And that's kind of where my end goal is with my hopefully in the future social, because you guys have touched base on it a little bit, but that's like the perfect example. Like, it's open to everybody, but it doesn't matter how you identify. You go there knowing you're going to be safe, and that's such a big thing for me. And like, I have a lot to learn before I get to that point as far as running socials and make sure that they're safe. And thankfully DJing now, like and Ruben like has been, like, they started mentoring me. So it's like, going with his knowledge and his tools and being able to further that experience. It's something I'm really excited to build at some point, but that's exactly the kind of vibe I want to have,
Right. Yeah. I think that's, for me to experience that night. I mean, like just being in that environment, it saddened me, because that's when I realized what I guess the fears and worries of that community is the fact that everyone's so inviting and welcome and friendly, but they don't receive the same from the greater society. So it was my first like aha moment, like, oh, this is what they mean.
Straight people go to a gay club; it'll change your life.
Seriously, you will get validated so much by like
Yes,
gay men.
queen.
Yeah. I've never been hyped up more in my life. So, straight women, you need to step it up. Yeah, but no, fuck, I totally no. That's a good point.
No.
And Jose, did you want to
Do you
add
have one
something?
last
What was
question?
your other question?
I was gonna
Sorry.
get into. I know you were mentioning that you want to kind of create that same environment as just a person, moving into the scene, creating socials, DJing, being a teacher. So I kind of what I'm getting from this conversation is a lot that dance in a way is a great tool or a great platform to just show the larger community what can happen when different kinds of people meet and dance. Like, I think we all recognize that when we're dancing, nothing else matters. We forget we're just having fun. We're just connecting. So what do you think, is something that dance can teach like the broader society in terms when it comes to like inclusivity and diversity?
It doesn't matter where you come from. Doesn't matter what the color of your skin is. Doesn't matter who you are with. We're all human. We're all human, and we're all craving interaction. We're all craving connection. In a world that's so connected by internet, and not that that's a bad thing. It's not. I have friends long distance that I wouldn't have been able to keep up with otherwise. Like, but in a world that's scrolling through TikTok and through Instagram Reels and small pieces of dopamine here and there, but then you don't remember what those reels are. Like, we have a sense of connectivity, but it's almost like a detached connectivity almost. Like, it's a Wi-Fi, literally like a Wi-Fi feeling of like, we're connected, but none of us are actually engaging with each other. And like, so in a world where that's kind of like our known and our normal, especially if you work from home, especially if you like, or a hybrid job, or if you like go to work and then come home and then that's all that like it's just TV or like, because a lot of people relax with TV, video games, or like TikTok and stuff like that. Like, we are in completely surrounded by technology. When a lot of us as humans, I think, are craving or are starved of actual deep connection with human beings. And that's something that dance brings. And especially, it's such an ostracized community as the queer community. Like, a lot of us have either been kicked out of our homes. For example, me, like, I was excommunicated from my church. Like, a lot of us lost a lot of close people that we grew up with, up to and including parents. Like, you were mentioning your grandma, how she wouldn't take the same. My grandma didn't take the same. My grandma and I, to this day, still have not arguments, but discussions about it. And I'm fortunate that my family loves me and they never put their beliefs over me. But it was a fight. Like, my mom and I constantly fought for like a year and a half after I came out. It was a mix of other things as well. But like, in general, like, I had coming from my personal experience, there was a huge sense of divide and loss after I came out. I came out publicly, and I know it was a backlash on my mom, on my grandmother, I'm sure, but I didn't hear much of that. My siblings didn't find out until like my mom told them, and then like, I couldn't tell my siblings that I was queer. Like, my mom didn't let me, and so it was a huge shift in my own family dynamic. I never lost them, but there was a lot of conflict and chaos within that sphere. And then on top of that, I was like, I went to a Christian school. I was homeschooled. I, grew up in a very small Mexican church, and all of them having taught me that like homosexuality or just being gay was wrong. And so when I finally had, after a year and a half of like deconstruction, of like doing my own research, learning what it was to be gay and learning what it means to be either, assigned female at birth, assigned male, like all these terminologies, like I delved deep into them and then compared them to my own religious beliefs growing up and comparing that. And it was a whole, literally what it's called is deconstruction. You deconstruct everything that you've known, and you're faced with this sudden reality that what you've been taught isn't necessarily what is. Right. And it's not your reality anymore. And going through that, with the chaos of going through with my family, my school friends, I mean, we all dispersed, honestly. We were a class of 30 kids. We were small. So we all kind of dispersed and went our own way. So I didn't have too much loss there, but I had teachers that I had like friended on Facebook, because this was before like Instagram kind of became super big. But my teachers, a lot of them unfriended me on Facebook. And these are like mentors of mine that I gone through a lot of really hard times. My main mentor, thankfully, never did, but you know, a lot of my other like more like teachers I admired gone. My entire church group, like they all stopped talking to me, stopped answering me, stopped inviting me places. I did not hear from them until several years later. And even then, it was because like it was an emergency and I needed help, and that was the last person I could call, and so I did. And thankfully they helped me, but as soon as that emergency was over, never heard from them again. Unless by some proxy, like we've overlapped. And that's just me. That's just my experience in terms of losing a lot. And I didn't even have it that bad, because I had another community kind of come in very quickly of like my theater friends and things like that. Like the arts have always been there for me, if you will, that they were helping me out. But a lot of these kids, a lot of these young, I don't want to say kids, but these young adults, or even older adults, especially older adults, they had this huge sense of loss and of grief and of excommunication and a disconnect, because they had to always have these walls up, these shields up, to protect themselves against anything that might be coming, because who the hell knows?
Right.
And even now in I don't want to go into politics, but just to bring into a blanket term of just the political environment right now, especially during the Trump era, like it was terrifying. And the overturning of Roe v. Wade. The Roe v. Wade was the prerequisite and one of the staple cases to defend gay marriage from getting legalized, or to defend gay marriage getting legalized. So all of these things happening, it's all an attack on our community and our existence as human beings. So we've had to put up these walls and to be defensive and to be safe and to try and protect our own selves from getting hurt,
Right.
whether it be physically, emotionally, or otherwise.
Right.
So to come into this community, which is all about being open and all about connecting with people and all about having this intimate human connection, whether platonic, romantic, dance connection, like we can talk about how that's like, that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
But having this like sense of intimacy with a person in a way that's not necessarily sexual,
Right.
and in a way that is just to be and exist.
Right.
This community is so in so much need of it.
Yeah.
Like there's a massive thirst for that, and I think that they would benefit so much.
Right. If they just like even just tried, or like got one of their friends to convince them to go out.
Yeah.
Because like I just wanted to mention like your whole journey of like deconstruction, like literally reshaping like everything you've ever known or felt, or I can't imagine just going through something like that. And I would imagine most people aren't even that aware of like, acknowledging it, So I can imagine like some people just like break apart and just never put themselves back together, and God knows like what kind of mind state they're in or what kind of life they're living. So,
Funnily, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good.
Oh, funnily enough, a lot of times we'll hear we'll hear about these big like these pastors or whatever that are just like super against the gay community and trying to do like conversion therapy.
Yeah.
Which was surprise. Like for me, once I actually came out to my family, like it was thrown around, being like, "I wish you had told us sooner. Like we could have gotten you help." And I'm like, "What are you talking about help? I don't want that kind of help. Like it's scary."
Yeah.
To think of what if my 17-year-old self, once when I remember looking at, I was like we were lined up outside of drama class. That should have been the first key, right? We were lined up outside of our drama class, and I just remember just like looking at my friends interacting with each other. I was just watching. I was just being kind of a little bit of a wallflower. And I just remember my eyes settling on like the head cheerleader of our class, and I was just like, she's so pretty.
Yeah.
Fuck. Like it was just kind of that huge like realization that I was just like, that's not straight girl thoughts.
Right.
And I remember, like, when I was really young, because, like, we'd known each other our whole lives. Like, when I was really young, like, I was always like, oh, I want to be her best friend. And it's just like, that's a little bit more than that, honey. But, like, you know, so sorry to Adriana if she watches this. That was kind of like my aha moment. And I remember having a full-on panic attack and a full-on breakdown and in my drama class, and I just shut down like a light. Like, I just was not responsive during that class because I was in full panic mode. And then my first kiss was my first girl kiss was also like around the age of 17. We got like Rockstar Energy high. We had 12 cans of Rockstar Energy drinks in one night.
Oh, that was a metaphor. I was like,
no, I'm talking like legit. My friend had like a fridge full of Rockstar Energy drinks, and we just pounded them for a whole night. And then later that night, like, we kissed, and like, I really liked it. I got really into it. And then like, there was a situation that like we stopped from anything going further because we were 17, and 17-year-olds are just turned on all the time.
Yeah.
So stopped it from going any further, but the next day I went to church, and I was like, I'm gonna burn in the pits of hell. Like, it was just so terrifying.
Yeah.
And so I just shoved it in a box, and I just was like, oh, that was just a one-off. Never happened. Never gonna happen again.
Right.
And then my best friend in college, I felt hard for her. And kind of figured out that we were queer together. Like, it was just kind of like one of those, like, oh, hello. And then nothing came from it because, like, she started dating her now husband, and then I, like, was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna go be heartbroken for like 5 minutes, and I'm gonna go start dating around women. But it was one of those like initial attractions to her, and our like reanalyzing kind of what our friendship was, and being like, oh, this is definitely more than just like platonic. And that started my investigation into like, what does Leviticus actually say? What is the Revelation talking about? Like, it's talking about, like, a lot of the times when it talks about it, it's talking about either like pagan practices because God is a jealous God. Or it's talking about pedophilia and like man shall not lie with boy, which is like worlds different because a lot of like pagan practices had young minors being brought in for sexual sacrifice or something like that. So a lot of it was differentiating between like Christianity itself and the pagan religions of the time. So it just, again, it was a huge knowledge ball of just like delving deep into it. And but yeah, it was hard. It was definitely an identity crisis. But I wouldn't have changed that experience just because I'm now the person I am today.
Right.
And again, always leading with love and compassion. You never know what people are going through, you know?
Right.
So, and that's really the message here. Just kind of bringing all that in.
No, love it.
Notification. Oh, just like real quick. I know like we're like running out on time. I'm just curious, like, in those, like, during that deconstruction moment, maybe I don't want to, like, if it's okay, like, your darkest moments, like, what got you through the whole process? Like, was there anything like that kind of like kept you going? Because I just hear sometimes people don't make it through, and there's either that's where I hear stories where people just like, you know, they just don't open up, or they don't come out, or just they're suppressed in some ways. Like, what kind of got you to just continue going through instead of like, okay, I'm just not gonna bring this up and I'll just keep going to church and live this lie or whatever?
I could not live a lie. Like, I don't. I've always been very much my authentic self. I used to hide a lot in my books, and so I grew very accustomed to having my books as my friends. They were always my escapes, so I read a lot, and to this day I still read. I don't read nearly as much, but like, my books. Like, this isn't the only period of my life where it was difficult. Like, I've had, and we can go delve more into this later, but like, I've lived a very like, not exactly the easiest life. Not the worst, but not the easiest.
Sure. And
my books were always kind of my escape, and my pets. Like, I had a dog that he was the thing I lived for. Like, he was my everything. Even in my lowest moments, feeling isolated from family and stuff like that, I knew I had my dog. I knew I had my books. And I had very specific friends that became like family to me. One of them being that best friend. Like, she's been one of my rocks through everything. We've been friends for over 7 years now, and she's my roommate now, and she and her husband, like, we all share a big house and with another roommate as well. Cool. And honestly, their friendship is more than I could have ever asked for. Like, they are absolutely one of the best people in my life, and I'm so grateful to have them. You know, and I met people that were just, that filled my soul. You find a found family. In those darkest moments, the most unexpected people come around, whether it's in the most random. One of them, it was a stage show reading of a very terrible rendition of some Shakespeare play. And I met a friend there who was a friend of a friend, and she became one of the very crucial people in my life. Friends from college, my best friend, she's the one that lives with me. She we've known each other since college, so like she was just always there, and someone that I could constantly text and rely on. And then I met my other best friend. I have mainly like 3 best friends, but like one of my other main people in my life, who's like literally wifey energy. Like, I love this girl so much, and she is literally like my soulmate. But like, yeah, she and I met working at the Girl Scout camp in San Diego, and she and I had very similar stories and very similar experiences of being queer. And she was so out and proud, and she was a pageant queen too, like she still is. But she's like super out and proud about being queer. And I just really admired her, and she gave me a lot of strength in her own light. And honestly, I didn't really come out of the darkness until my first relationship ended. It turned into a very kind of toxic, leaning towards abusive situation. And I had moved to Florida for this girl. Like, this hoe, I'm across the country for this bitch, like, straight up. Yeah. And she just became really toxic, and our relationship became really toxic. I'm not going to say that I was perfect, because I'm sure that I had things as well, but she raised a hand at me, and I was just like, you do that again, I'm out. And so we broke up. I lived like 2 weeks more in Florida, staying at my manager's house, because bless her heart, she was a sweetheart. And then I came home, and I moved back into my mom's house, and then like a few months later, the pandemic happened, so it was a great time. But during
cook meals,
yeah, it was a crazy time. But in that time of coming home, that's when I started getting diagnosed with my autoimmune disorder. That's when I started going into like really intense therapy, and being home back with my family, where they're actually, because I unfortunately had to leave the house at like 19. Just due to safety reasons, with a certain individual. But with moving back in with my mom and her new husband, like seeing having my mom see me after not seeing me for so many years, at least not truly seeing me, it was jarring and it was hard. But the pandemic in some way helped us acknowledge where we were in our own lives and to rebuild what we had kind of broken in those past years. So it took me going through my first big heartbreak, moving back across the country, and kind of coming into a home where I was like, I don't know how this is gonna work, but we're gonna make it work. And coming back into that, it was it was very healing, being around my siblings, being around my family, and I love them dearly, and having those friends. Like, I cannot stress enough that the people who are your found family, the family that you build, that family will make you or break you. Like, I was very fortunate to have those people in my life that had my back, were looking out for me, asking me if I had eaten anything, asking me like, hey, should you really be doing that? Hey, like calling me out on my bullshit, being like, don't do that stuff, you're being stupid. Like, it was, and to this day they still do that. Like, I unfortunately like recently went through a breakup, so it's just like a lot of big emotions over here, but my found family being like, hey, we're worried about you. Are you okay? Where are you? Do you need anything? What's your thought right? Like, where's your brain right now? Like, them checking in, or when I notice that they're not doing well, I'm like, hey, they're going through a hard time right now. What's going on? Like, it's having that support, and that's key for anyone. No one can survive alone. No one can survive alone.
That's a great takeaway, by the way. And Jose, how are we good on time? I don't mean to cut you off or anything.
We do have to wrap it up, but I think it does point towards, like, I think the dance community is a great place to like find those people. I think, at least for me, I was able to find Will and make some great connections. Got the boy Antonio over here. We started the podcast, so like, we really connected on a lot of things. So that's why we want to share social dancing. That's how we got to really connect, really go through tough times, good times, all kinds of times. You guys, they were showed up at my baby shower, so you know it's a big thing. Um, let's shout out some of the things that are coming up, any events coming up. Where can people find you?
Yeah.
I know you got the Monday social.
Plug,
Let's go.
Promote anything you want.
So my OnlyFans is no, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
So our group chat on Instagram, if you want to join.
No, I'm sorry, I don't have an OnlyFans. No, so my Instagram is Mitch MICH Smith 97 on Instagram. Feel free to follow me. Shoot me a message if you have any questions or just want to chat. Current events I have going on. I work every Monday at Scottsdale Sensual, which is now a master class. So come check us out at Imperial Ballroom. I will be there. Come say hi. And then on November 11th, I have the birthday bash with Big Rube. I will be DJing there, and my dear and lovely friend Renata, bless her heart, she will be teaching. So please come out and support us. And if anything else, big hug, big loves, and yeah, just reach out if you need anything else.
I don't know if that will upload by November 11th or before November.
We'll
11th.
just.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Never mind. Scratch that. I have no other
promote
events
it.
coming up.
Don't worry, we'll
For
promote
next
it on the
year's birthday bash.
Instagram. So
Okay,
we're
cool.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Tag
just
it.
like one. I guess I'm over explaining, but no, like just whatever we talked about, it applies to if you really open up your mind to it. Anyone can apply any of these stories or experiences to whatever the viewer's is going through. You know, like community is extremely important, and without it, honestly, I think everything is like at least if not secondary, then in a way like kind of useless. Like we all need each other, and yeah, just really be open, and you'd be surprised how impactful you could be, or how other people can impact you if you know
If you let it
we're
happen.
much more
If you
open
open
and
up.
compassionate. What's up?
Nah, yeah, like if you open up, a lot of things can happen.
Yeah, in general, really.
Yeah.
So-
All right then. Well, thank you guys for tuning in.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
Yeah,
This was
thank
fun.
you.
No, thank
And it was a whole trip getting this set
Yeah.
up, but
We had a
thank you
great
for
time.
being there.
I cracked jokes to keep them company.
Yeah.
I did so good.
No, this is good. It's gonna be way smoother. We keep saying this, huh?
Yeah, we keep on saying it every podcast.
It's gonna be way smoother next time. But yeah, no, it's amazing. Thank you, and hopefully we have you come on another
I would
time
love
as
it.
well.
Anytime.
Awesome.
dope.
Right.
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
All
Bye,
right,
guys.
guys.